How have the digital marketing platforms changed over the course of the year? Do you know how to shift with them? We're talking about the evolution of digital marketing platforms and the changes to consumer privacy here on The Edge.
Go! Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. Powered by your digital marketing pioneers, Site Strategics. This week's featured guests are J.D. Prater, Head of Marketing at Osmos, and Joe Martinez, co-founder of Paid Media Pros. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
This is Edge of the Web Radio. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. Every week we bring you amazing guests to chat about digital marketing news and topics. Each week we unpack a key marketing topic for our digital marketing audience. So whether you're part of an agency, a freelancer, or part of a firm, this show is for you. So check out everything over at edgeofthewebradio.com. All the shows, content, social, and much more over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Edge of the Web is brought to you by our title sponsor, Site Strategics. We're the pioneers in the agile digital marketing methodology. Our core specialties are SEO, SEM, social media, marketing and management, conversion rate optimization, omni-channel, media marketing, agile marketing that actually is results-based marketing that works. So if you're interested in what we can do for you, just give us a call at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932. I almost missed it. Just want to let you know who's going to be coming up on the show over the next few episodes. Olga Zarzechna, Christina Azarenko, and Darren Shaw. Ooh, I got it through at least. I can't say that.
Joe Smith.
Joe Smith. All right. Just want to let you know who will be coming up on the show over the next few episodes. Olga Zarzechna, Christina Azarenko, and Darren Shaw. Be sure to check out the recent shows we've had with Garrett Sussman, Bill Slawski, and Mark Traphagen. Those are fantastic shows, certainly dug into a lot of great topics over the last few weeks. If you're interested in being part of the show, simply drop us a line at info@edgeofthewebradio.com. Set your reminders for YouTube to get notified when we post the videos of this show. Each video is actually the full interview. Podcasts are one segment each. So if you're eager to see the entire interview, usually that's dropping at the tail end of our last. I think it's at our first show. We actually dropped the full interview. So make sure you check out all the weekly news podcasts as well, covering the most recent digital marketing news and Google updates. We're dropping it every Tuesday to help you navigate the week in digital marketing. Continued co-host on the show is Morty Oberstein, the indomitable Morty Oberstein. So check us out and see how he abuses me each and every week. Now let's meet this week's industry expert guests. It's a pleasure to introduce our more recent listeners to these gentlemen that I'm about to speak with today. We've had on individually over time, twice for J.D. Prater and Joe Martinez. Great stuff from those interviews, so we really would like you to go back and check out some of those interviews in the past. Now, these guys are buds, and I wanted to get them on together talk about their efforts in the digital marketing world and the platforms that they work on. There's a new embrace of diversification of digital marketing platforms by clients, and these guys see that regularly. So let's first introduce J.D. He's the head of marketing at Osmos. We can actually formally make that announcement, right, sir?
That is right. As of today, we can say it.
So this is breaking news. We got to get this stuff out, right? So congratulations on that. We certainly want to unpack Osmos, but let's share with our listeners your experience. You're also the host of Thrills and Chills Product Marketing Podcast. Congratulations on that. JD's got his finger on the pulse of product marketing. He's also a seasoned product marketer that excels at go-to-market strategies. He develops product narratives as well that resonate with the audience, as well as grow revenue and build tribes. He's out in Oklahoma now as he left the Bay Area amid the pandemic, and his career path has been through AdStage, which was TapClick's acquired AdStage, Quora, Google, and Amazon Web Services, and now with Osmos Data. So thanks for joining us today, JD.
No, so excited to be here. Of course, love the podcast, and I love Joe almost as much.
See, we have a pecking order now. All right, so let me open the door for Joe here. Joe Martinez. He's an international paid media writer and speaker. He was the director of client strategy at Clicks Marketing previously with Granular and Top Floor Technologies. He hosts a great YouTube channel with Michelle Morgan called Paid Media Pros, and they do a fantastic job. I can't talk enough about how detailed they get in communicating techniques of marketing platforms down to the levers and the dials and the knobs you have to actually throw. So if you want to learn multiple platform approach of advertising, they break it all down there. So Joe, thanks for joining us again. Third time on the show as well.
Hey, it's always great to be back. Love this show as well. And again, any excuse to hang out with my boo-boo JD, it's always a good thing.
You actually called him boo-boo. All right. That's a thing.
I had to one up them.
By the way, Martinez, I don't think I've actually met anyone that was such a diehard Star Wars fan as Joe. Joe's in the freaky pole of Star Wars, so I got to ask about the Bad Batch. What's your take, man?
Good so far. Just got to see how it ends.
Yeah.
To me, I can't judge it till it's over, but in a couple hours, I got to make my weekly trip to the comic shop and pick out the new book and go to a different store to actually pick up the hardcover book that came out yesterday. So
okay, everybody listening at home, you actually understand what he's doing.
Nerd.
Now, I mean, he's if the word Star Wars canon starts coming up, I mean, you actually understand that he goes canon plus off canon, so he can actually fully embrace the Star Wars universe, right?
Everything about it.
This is the way. Okay. So if anybody wants to actually trail Joe and follow what he actually throws out there, every once in a while he'll actually take a picture of his books or his media collection, and it is scary, the depth of Star Wars material there. Just saying.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. See, actually it puts my Batman collection down a couple pegs, so whenever I actually want to show my wife how conservative I am on my collection, I'll just point to you and go, look, I could be that.
Could be worse.
It could be way worse. All right, so gentlemen, I wanted to bring you both together, and usually we're doing a one-on-one interview, and always is the case that we could go full tilt 3 hours with each of you. But I wanted to get you both together and talk about what we're seeing on the digital marketing platform front. What growth have you seen in the world of these different digital platforms, and not just the actual platforms themselves? I'm going to tee it up to you here, but also some of the key concepts inside of digital marketing, like audience targeting, segmentation tools, and AI-powered optimization. What have you seen starting to evolve? Because we're all seeing changes in platforms, but you guys have the pulse of this. What are some new innovations that our listeners should really be paying attention to? Joe, I'd take you first.
Yeah, I think, ever since the world got flipped upside down pretty much a year ago.
Yep.
In my case, and I can only speak from my perspective and the clients I had at the time, is looking at whether an account was struggling due to all the changes or they were benefiting from it. So it's two scenarios. It was the opportunity to explore other channels besides the big dogs. So in the case of where clients were hurting, certain things were that sometimes they couldn't afford certain channels like LinkedIn, or sometimes depending on how expensive Google was. So they had to look for other routes because their marketing budgets were shrinking because money wasn't coming in.
Right.
So we had to get clever. We had to not do what we were always doing. And one, it benefits people's strategies. It opens their mind to, hey, a lot of these channels have been around for many years. It's just you weren't testing them because you were just doing what you were doing all the time.
Throwing big cash at big platforms. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Keep on going.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then on the flip side, for our clients who benefited, they felt like, just a lot of them were in the healthcare industry. They felt like they were kind of maxing out what they could do with Google. But since business was really, really good about a year or so ago, they wanted to expand their reach and they got more budgets so they could keep going and testing other platforms. So we just had the opportunity, and, from a worker's perspective, it was fun to just finally get to do a bunch of different things. And even if it was just raising awareness, just keeping the lights on, but just have some sort of branding, we got to test out a lot of different things, do a bunch of different platforms that clients have never tested out before. And that's probably the first time I felt like a true marketer instead of just doing Google ads or just doing Facebook ads.
Sure. So you're testing out different intent-oriented messaging and being able to kind of fill that grid or that lattice down of, I know it's cliche, but that buyer's journey, be able to connect to them at those different levels of consumer interaction. But the clients are actually have been more embracing this level of diversification. Like you're talking about. JD, what have you saw from kind of a buy-in of the clients and the appreciation of digital marketing as a whole?
Yeah, I think, to Joe's point, I think innovation comes from constraint, right? So we have all these new constraints, and it's really requiring us as marketers to be more innovative. And I don't think you see this any more like hyper innovation than like Facebook, right? I mean, there's so much constraints. You can't, you make a little change and all of a sudden your ad is just gone, right, or your performance just tanks. And you can kind of see Google trying to do the same thing now with their smart campaigns. Coming into this new role ahead of marketing, they've got an ad campaign set up, and it's a smart campaign. They've got like 100 broad match keywords. Ooh. And I'll be damned if they're not getting $12 CPLs, right? And you're like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And I'm like worried. Now I'm supposed to come in, be this expert, and I'm like, I don't want to touch this. Like, I don't know if I can do better than that. Or what if I put in a new campaign structure and it has to go learn, right? Like all of this, it's a new website, there's new tracking, right? So it's really interesting to see how these platforms are making it so easy for the common person. In my case, this is a engineering focused founder could set up a smart campaign and still drive leads. So I've been really impressed with how we're seeing this adoption of digital marketing, even outside of marketers, to where we're seeing people get it and they're getting results and they're happy with the results without having to do a whole lot. And that's really impressive.
Yeah. And I go through the pain that we've gone through, the learning experience of don't bid there, bid there. But isn't that also the risk here? If we've got AI optimization running you're not learning the lessons, the bot's learning the lesson, the machine learning's learning the lessons. And we've had a number of different guests on the shows over the last year that also kind of give the red flag of machine learning that's not governed by key business goals. Machine learning can run you into a cliff because it thinks it's what you're looking for. And unless you have it's kind of like the race cars on the electric racetrack. Unless you've got that down there, that guideline, it can spend your money very, very quickly, and it can show a $12 CPL, but it may not be matching anybody that you're really trying to get, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're 100% correct. And we're seeing this every day. Even the new company I'm at, Osmos, right? I mean, we have AI powered, transformations. We can take clean data and we take messy data, make it clean. But we say it's part human, part machine. And because you have to have the human to give it the guardrails, to give it the guidelines of knowing what to do. How do I clean this? In Google, Facebook's case, it's what is a good conversion? Right. Going a little bit deeper of not just CPL, but putting some other type of metrics behind that of, did they convert into a customer? Were they a paying customer? And so I think the further that we can track down the line, hopefully that's going to move upstream. So I think that's where we can help out on being a little bit more advanced, guiding the AI to be a little bit better. Right. And hopefully they'll give us some more data, with these RSAs or even within, Facebook to understand what's working, what's not working, so we can, be the best marketers.
So our role as marketers are going to be moving down the assembly line a little bit, that we're not putting the pieces together and we're not loosely on the conveyor belt, right, trying to put things together and stuffing a few chocolates in our mouth. Why did I go with that analogy? I have no freaking clue. But
I think I'm still old enough for I Love Lucy, so there you go.
But I think that'll be the case for Google, Facebook. You need a ton of data in order for that to work well. Right. Smaller platforms, the LinkedIns, the Quoras, the Reddits, right? Like Pinterest, maybe some degree TikTok, because they still have a pretty young ad platform.
Yep.
You're still going to be doing a lot of hand holding and still going to be, really pulling those levers to make performance work for you.
Right. But to continue the thought is that a portion of our area is going to be really in that goal-centric space, feedback loop to the programmatics, and be able to actually demonstrate that next level of understanding of the consumer beyond just the lead. It's the behavior, it's the probabilistic concepts around understanding the consumer model. That gives us a little bit more maturity because AI can do the block and tackle, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Well, that's exciting. However, it's also scary as hell because I always reference Skynet, and I really do think that Skynet's going to first come from digital marketing platforms because it has to understand human behavior. Where else is it going to learn human behavior than marketing? Right?
Yeah.
All right, so take a pause here because you guys have some information. I wanted to certainly take a moment and just talk about your two different vocations. So, JD, you just announced your role of head of marketing over at Osmos. Give us a quick 30-second what's going on there and why'd you jump?
Yeah, I mean, we're a team of 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
I am the first marketer. I'm the only marketer, and that is either going to excite you or it's going to scare you. I'm the kind of person that it excites. And so what I'm working on right now, I've been here for just over a month, is we got a brand new rebrand. So we were 42 layers. Now we're Osmos, which means new colors, new website, new tracking, new analytics, new ad accounts, new ads, right? It's everything that kind of follows from that. And so on the marketing side, I'm doing a little bit of everything right now. So lots of hats and having a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very good. All right. So that's always great to be able to jump into a kind of a startup like this, but it's been around for a bit, right? It's just going through a rebrand and really retooling itself.
Yeah. They started it back in 2019 and have taken the last couple of years to really figure out what it is they're going to build and how they're going to build it. And now my job is to come in and how do I best tell that story? How do I best attract the right type of clients and, hopefully get some people in the door, get some good leads and get some good customers.
Sweet. All right. Well, Joe, you got news as well. So tell us what you're doing now. And you're taking on your own shingle, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm my own now. Pretty much feels good. The YouTube channel, which is kind of silently launched I think the beginning of 2019, just keeps growing and growing. We release a couple videos every week with no plans on stopping. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday week or not. Videos are coming out every week. So that's growing, brings in a good stream for us that we're happy with, but we want more of that. So I think the focus is really on content. We want to do more content education. So hoping to grow that soon, but still taking on clients and consulting and everything. It's very cool. Whatever people need help with. We know no specific niche or service thing that we would limit ourselves to.
Excellent. Well, congrats on that, guys. And I wish you the best in the world on the career path. We came together in a couple conversations. We talked about Quora. We talked about more fractional tribal type of marketing, this personalization, not things at scale, but finding loyalists in different pockets. What growth do you guys see there in these more nuanced pockets? I know LinkedIn has really taken hold with its new marketing platform. Bing has also expanded, obviously, with its connection with LinkedIn. But how have you seen businesses invest in this type of relationship, authority, trust marketing that's really foreign to mass marketing at a TV or conventional level, as well as just mass digital marketing? How have you seen that been embraced by clients? I'll go to JD first.
I think a lot of people really get it, and that's what they want kind of to begin with, right? Like no one really wants to quote unquote waste their ad spend, right? And I say waste because maybe it's not driving leads tomorrow or today,
right? But
at the same time, they want leads tomorrow and today and realize that they need to spend at the same time. So there is this kind of like catch-22 that goes back and forth between those two. I don't really find myself having a hard time explaining the benefits of personalization and localization and really dialing it into who we need to go after. What I mostly have trouble with is it enough? Is it scalable? And that's really the second piece of that, where you're trying to maybe diversify into a new ad platform or experiment while also keeping the lights on what's actually working. Right.
I mean, you can't go too far off bubble. You still have to,
that's right,
to keep the leads going and keep the business going. But there are undiscovered riches there in planting a brand in a Reddit or planting a brand in a Quora and actually creating a relationship there. And that cannot be done at scale. That has to be done with a level of intent, not only just from creative messaging, but subject matter expertise and continued payback to that channel, right?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And I think where that becomes a little tricky too is maybe that client, maybe it's your boss, isn't as familiar with Quora or as familiar with Reddit. And so therefore they're like, well, who goes there? Why would I go there? And you're like, well, I mean, so then it's like, okay, let me build the case, right? You know, it's 300, 400 million people going there every day, right? It's like, this isn't a small number. It's really focusing in and on not just the amount of people going there, but check out these communities. Right. You know, go look at this subreddit that is like for Star Wars geeks like Joe that want to like just go into the smallest detail of what's happening with Loki, right? Like that's perfect. Let's show that group some kind of Star Wars, joke to do some trivia, but you're also trying to reach out without being too salesy, too markety, when ultimately try to kind of reach them where they are. And I think that's what good marketing is. And if you ask me as the marketer, that's actually way more fun than just setting up, a smart campaign in Google Ads or going into Facebook and creating something. It's like really, really trying to hone in on who that audience is and how can I be there and deliver some value. And I think that's really the challenge, but the ultimate fun as a marketer.
Absolutely. Joe, pulling you back around into this, you've certainly been in the space of this type of nuanced type of marketing as well as large scale platforms. How have you seen clients buy into this? And to JD's point, what trepidations have clients experienced, and what wins can you tout about the amount of time and investment into a localized, personalized type of campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I probably said this a bunch of times. I might even said it on the last time I came on your show, but we hear clients or prospective clients a lot saying, we want to be where the people are. And my kind of, canned response to that one is, sure, yeah, Google and Facebook are where the people are. In general, people, but where is your audience? And that's why I think people need to change that mentality whatsoever. It's like JD said, it's not hard to go into any of these platforms and find all the unique targeting options that, there's certain targeting options you can only get in Snapchat that you can't get in any other channel. Same thing with Twitter, with Quora, with Reddit. Spotify, Hulu, they each have different things. And besides just the targeting, the unique ad formats between a lot of these channels, there's some are slower to catch up to speed. Like it took Reddit forever just to get pixel retargeting, but TikTok already has lead gen ads. So, I mean, if you want to try to get some people to sign up for your newsletter, AKA we probably talking about collecting first party information is really important. TikTok is caught up fairly quickly, and they don't have anything that's super robust, but they already have lead gen ads. Like, I know how long has their ad platform been around, and look how long it took like LinkedIn to get it or that type of thing. It's keeping track of what's out there that's best for your company. And because of that, we've seen better adoption when we're proactively bringing these to the table of our clients. Recently, we had a client who was doing a lot of YouTube, and me, I love YouTube, but with their particular industry, I was like, have you guys checked out Hulu ads? And then they're like, yeah, it seems cool. And then I sent them, hopefully I can find it and share it later. Yeah. But you can go on Hulu and look at all the different type of ad formats that they have.
Right.
When I first looked at it, I was like, whoa, this is way more than I expected, and how interactive they can be, because they know when people are watching TV, they have their phones on them. So all the QR code and interactive stuff that's there. And the client saw that. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And in my head, I was like, I don't know either, but this is pretty cool. But it gave them different ideas. And, the light, when you see the light bulbs go off as a marketer, that's when you get happy, because, like, oh, they're going to do this. They're going to try this out because they know this is perfect for their audience. And once you provide that and show them what they can do for their brand, it leads to more adoption. And we're not doing that just to get them to try a new platform. We're doing it because we know this has a good chance of working, and this is the test we should do, instead of just trying to find new keywords for Google.
Sure. And that was kind of the impetus of just getting into what the evolution of these platforms are. You find these nuances, these unique innovations at these smaller platforms. They're doing it for a purpose because they've got that unique audience targeting that you just, it's the tribe plus the opportunity to be able to meet that tribe with that platform's directional tools there that you just won't find in the major river flow. I mean, these eddies and these small streams, they've got local communities, and these platforms, if you're paying attention to them, are truly innovating right now. So is this the next space where all marketers really should be? It's not just a diversification of platform, it's really specializing in these different platforms to the degree of understanding the few tweaks that you got to do in a Hulu video advertising campaign that will be a night and day difference than a large scale YouTube video campaign. Is that where we're going here, guys?
I mean, I would say anytime you can specialize, you're going to do well.
Yes.
Our friend AJ Wilcox, I mean, he only does LinkedIn,
yep.
right? I mean, and he's picked a platform and he's been able to make a business out of it, and a very sustainable agency, right? And
yep.
I would say anytime you can do that, do it. It's just make sure you can get enough clients, make sure that you can, be the best at what that is. So yeah, I mean, I would always say, yeah, go do it. Well, it's always the second half of, can I support it? Can I do it?
Is it sustainable?
Well, is it sustainable? Right. And I think also it's, maybe you have an agency, maybe like Joe over here. He's like, I really want to focus on YouTube. Michelle, you can go focus on Facebook, right? And you can kind of like split, who's going to focus on what across many clients. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can do it, but I do think there is advantage to being a specialist on certain platforms. Absolutely.
All right. So Joe teed it up for me. I'm going to take a swing at it here. The final topic of this show I wanted to cover was some privacy issues that we're experiencing right now. The iOS 14.5 update and the future third-party cookie loss here. We're looking to actually lose a lot of the targeting we're talking about platform targeting. We're talking about audience targeting and remarketing tools. We're about to lose a lot of our ability to do so. In June 2020, Apple announced the iOS changes, effectively expanding existing user permissions that will have reverberating effects in advertising and marketing. It's now live, and it's critical for marketers to actually future-proof these different strategies here. Apple is requiring users to provide explicit permission for apps to collect and share data. It's a major privacy initiative. So basically, advertisers will not be able to pull from the IDFA, that's the identifier for advertisers, unique identification code. So this is going to be dropping from like 70% of apps collecting that data to about as low as 10. All right, so there's the scenario here. Personalized ads are directly tied to IDFA. That's going to be gone. That's already being removed. Have you seen this starting to take effect on your campaigns? And what's your take on this challenge to privacy, and how are we going to evolve our marketing strategies? That was a long-winded sentence right there.
Yeah, I mean, in my accounts, I am very lucky to say that the majority of my clients are very involved with their CRM, and their CRM has been set up properly and tracking's there. So we have good data. I understand I'm blessed on that part, but we have good data to go back and see the difference between what we're seeing in Facebook compared to what's in the actual CRM. And there are clear differences.
Yeah.
And, we have clients who say like, why is my CPL going up? Or why is my CPA going up? And we could export the same date ranges and compare and be like, this is clearly what's happening.
Yeah.
We've had clients on Facebook where 60 to 70% of their traffic lifetime consistently has been Apple devices, and they have lost a chunk of that. And when everything was put in place and we lost the breakdown information for any on-site conversion actions, so we can't see any more age ranges, gender ranges, placement, device breakdowns, it makes it a lot harder to optimize. So I'm also lucky that my clients have understood this, especially when we show the data of the discrepancies and the information that we're losing, that every single one of them, if they weren't running lead gen campaigns on the platform, they're running at least one now to start collecting that information to add to nurture campaigns that they already have set up in HubSpot, to add to their MailChimp list or whatever, and understanding how we need to help some of the other branding platforms and channels that they're using to really focus on using that information that we can have either add another touch point to the user to do better marketing, but also just to make sure that we're getting information back within the channel as much as we can.
As much as you can, yeah. And the first person cookie or data collection is essential. And we can use that for the platforms. TikTok, I mean, your last video, you're talking about a personalization on TikTok itself. So you can upload just like you do with Google emails and Facebook personalization data. You can send that straight to TikTok for delivery. So it's going to get closer and closer relationships. We have to have the collection mindset before anything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we start using some of these on-channel features like lead forms, specifically in Facebook, other audiences that you can do within Google, when they're staying on the platforms, we can create audiences of Facebook of people who've interacted or completed your lead forms. You can create those audiences on LinkedIn too. Yep. You can create video interaction audiences on YouTube. So when you're keeping the user on channel and you're getting those actions recorded and saved within audiences, then we could still market to the Apple users or anyone else who potentially lost a third-party cookie because they're staying on the platform and we at least know who they are on that given platform. And
you still have the lookalike audiences that you can tie into based on that transaction model, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as interest targeting, is going to fluctuate because they can't track what these users are doing on these third-party websites, then when we get more first-party information, it's going to hopefully feed better root audiences, like you said, for lookalikes, because if we're creating lookalikes off of certain page visits or just other interest audiences that have performed well in the past,
sure,
you've probably already seen differences in performance since everything went down because the quality of that audience may not be as good. But if we can keep that off of some sort of higher level conversion action, hopefully you're still building your deeper conversion action audiences, then hopefully it's going to keep your lookalikes still in place or maybe even improve them because you're actually spending time actually getting legit customer information instead of just all audience-based or web page visit audiences.
Which we should have actually been doing anyway, all things being
100%.
Equal, right? All right?
Absolutely.
So along with this, we're losing third-party cookies. By 2022, regulations designed to protect consumer privacy, particularly the California Consumer Privacy Act, and major technology companies will require explicit permission to share and use data generated from digital interactions. It's a $152 billion in advertising industry, and we're going to lose access to that data. So advertisers and publishers have to adjust for their collections. JD, what are your thoughts on this loss of data and maybe what you've conveyed to your own clients? If they're not, Joe's got some astute clients here. You're obviously, your company is your client, right? But at the same time, we're losing a lot of visibility there. What have you experienced in client understanding and maybe adaptivity? How about that? Right.
I think this is where loss aversion comes into a place, right? People don't like when things are taken away from them.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. But at the same time, this is what our customers are asking for. This is what people are asking for. Go look at the iOS 14 update and how many people have opted in. You're looking at 4 to 6% have said, yeah, you can track me. And so 95% of people with Apple devices are saying, don't track me. I don't want you to track me. And it took realistically over 10 years for Apple to realize, oh, we just gave Google and Facebook all this money. Like, they could have stopped this from day one and said this isn't allowed. Maybe Facebook doesn't even exist at this point as far as how big of an ad platform it is. So I don't know. This is things that I've been thinking about, right? It's like they've allowed Facebook and Google to grow into what they are, $1 trillion companies, right? So for me, looking back on it, I'm okay with it. Like, I think it just kind of comes down to, I'm really thankful that our CEO is a big privacy nerd. And so he's like, good, don't track me. And he's like, make sure you have all the GDPR regulations, on the website. So I'm sorry if you get hit, and you don't like it. And it says like, you accept these cookies when you go to the Osmos website or whatever. But I mean, that's like a $10,000 fine.
Yeah. And in Europe, it's even worse. I mean, it's huge. It's got like 80 or 82 different type of cookie policies that you have to navigate per country. No, you're absolutely right. So what you're really saying is, if I could kind of summarize, is this is going to be the new norm regardless.
That's correct.
And it should have been. And we just need to get ready for that. And you're both saying the same thing. Pull in as much as you can, be able to have that connection to that one-to-one audience, so you can directly market to them. There are thoughts about experience marketing and direct engagement to customers, and even like the probabilistic targeting. One last point I wanted to ask you about is, what are your thoughts regarding Google's FLoC? That's the posited federated learning of cohorts. It's positioned to be kind of a replacement for a kind of replacement signal for third parties. It's going to have in-market and Google affinity audiences. They've got ad fraud protection, anti-fingerprint. Basically, we're going to be tying into this anonymous behavior. And as we learn more about the audiences, we're going to learn more probably that this visitor has this particular set of mannerisms. It's kind of deductive reasoning as opposed to a direct cookie tracking scenario here. What are your thoughts? Have you chewed on FLoC at all? What the FLoC is this?
That was actually a pretty good segue. As a fellow podcast host, I'm pretty jealous of that. That was pretty good. I haven't really chewed on it enough, honestly. I just it's something I need to familiarize myself with a lot more. But I could see how Google wants you to become more reliant on them for this information. But yeah, I think for me, I'll pass it over to Joe, because I don't really have a expert opinion on this one.
Joe, what do you think?
Initially, honestly, I'm not too scared about it. Clearly, with my love of YouTube, and I still use Google Display and everything, we've done a lot of audience targeting with the way it is now.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of PPC marketers out there that run display or YouTube, when they check like their placement reports and everything else, or the performance of some of these audiences, they're like, are they really that good anyway? And there's a lot of those from I get it from the individual to the cohort of grouping them together. Part of me is just going to be a wait and see. I'm honestly not too worried about it. I'm probably pretty picky with my audiences and what I typically target within those channels anyway, whether it's a custom-based audience and everything. Now, with custom audiences, that's typically what I create for my YouTube stuff anyways, and those are based off of Google.com and YouTube search history, broad match related. Again, keeping on the Google and YouTube platform, all owned by the same property. So that's still first party data they're collecting because that's theirs. Right. So those are my go-to audiences. Those are the ones I honestly sometimes even test before remarketing. And those aren't the ones that are really going to be affected at all. And to me, those are the most effective audiences on the Google platform. So I still use in-market audiences and I will test them out, but I'm honestly not too worried about it, because even though we've seen like interest targeting change within Facebook, it hasn't been absolutely drastic where things tank. And I still think they have enough data signals from users that they still have good information from those users. And again, if it comes back down to privacy, I think the user itself will be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, very good, very good. Well, we've kind of given these guidance points to our listeners here. But if we were to give one thought to companies that are listening to us, it's almost like a prepper's mindset. We need to prep for the loss of cookies here in 2022. Final thought on that for our listening audience, JD.
Yeah, I think I said earlier, constraint breeds innovation. Start now. And so you're going to have these constraints coming up to where what you've been used to won't be available. And you have to start prepping for it. If you guys remember back in GDPR a couple of years ago, all of a sudden we were like, oh crap, like I got to get this like on my website, right? I think we all were like kind of pushed it off. And I think now's the time to actually start thinking through, how am I collecting my audiences? How am I pushing that information back? And you just need to do a lot of like trial and error and start setting this stuff up, whether that's through Tag Manager, whether that's through your CRM, and start pushing data around. Because I think that's ultimately what's going to help whenever you're prepping for this coming up and next year.
Yeah, and side note on that point is that there is a financial set of teeth there on the GDPR consent, email consent scenario. I think it's $10,000 or $20,000 per email if the DOJ starts clamping on this, right?
Yeah, I mean that's not a small number for a lot of our listeners. Like I can guarantee when I hear some of these, think about all these like Shopify, D2C brands that are doing hundreds of orders every day, thousands. Like, no, thank you. I don't want to pay that bill.
Nope.
Like, you better make sure that you have your data policy tight and make sure that you're thinking about Europe, but you also need to be thinking about, the California regulations coming up, and then how that also relates to Google's policy and Facebook's policy. So we're kind of caught in the middle of this as the business or as the agency trying to really help people really think through these. Like they're not easy. I mean, it's definitely tough because you're gonna have lawyers involved.
Yeah. Oh crap. He said the L word. Joe, any final guidance for our digital marketing prepping community now?
Yes, be a lawyer who specializes in this.
There you go. There you go. $1,000 an hour.
Career advice from Joe Martinez. There we go.
No, I mean, honestly, it really comes down to what we talked about today. It's understanding your options out there for marketing, because they offer different features in terms of either targeting or ad platforms. And then one thing, kind of going back to a client example, is when they saw results decline and we know, okay, we're not going to just promote the blog anymore. We're going to start doing gated content. Well, if someone just is going to read a guide or a PDF and they're going to give your information, what does that offer? Why should they give the information? And it's forced our clients to really think of what we're going to put in front of that user's face that's going to make them want to give their information. So it's understanding that you need to have something that's worthwhile, that's going to make them want to learn more about your brand. And it's actually forcing us to be better marketers. It's actually this is wrong to say. It's like not for once, but like now it's like everyone is finally, I think, realizing that we need to do better for the customer experience and actually giving them what they want instead of us trying to like, hey, you should give us your information for no reason. It doesn't work like that anymore, because now people are going to be inundated with more type of lead form and data collection type stuff because people need that first party information. You're going to have to work a lot harder that you're going to have a better offer that people are actually going to want to do it.
But at the same time, if they're actually explicitly allowing you into the private, intimate settings of their inbox, they're going to be more apt to buy as well. So you have the opportunity of even a higher conversion if you're doing it correctly.
Yeah, and it's when we're doing non-salesy type marketing, and actually focusing on portraying our brands as trusted, helpful, guiding brands, then we're seeing better results instead of just asking for people's money right away all the time.
Yeah. Because everybody's consumption patterns changed over the quarantine and the pandemic over the last year and a half, and it's not over for any stretch of the imagination. We have realized that there's a consumer behavior shift that's sticking. And lockdowns and social distancing shifted consumer habits and demands. People are becoming more self-sufficient, consuming as much Star Wars as they possibly can, as well as embracing different digital trends. So according to Bazaar Voice, 49% of global consumers now shop online more than they did before the pandemic. In the U.S., 62% of consumers shop more online than ever before. And research from McKinsey found that 75% of American shoppers changed their shopping behavior and brand preference amid the actual pandemic. And even more interesting, more than 60% plan to stick with those buying habits post-crisis. So there's the tee up, gentlemen. Buying perception has indelibly changed via the pandemic. We got put in our houses, we were closed up, and all we had was the internet, right? Well, Amazon benefited incredibly so. So did a lot of digital brands that were able to pivot and make capitalization on these consumers. What do you say? What have you witnessed over the last year and a half? Joel, I'll go to you first on some of the behavior that you witnessed on consumers that kind of dropped your jaw, and give us maybe possibly a couple examples of that.
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind for a couple of our clients that I had at this point last year, or not last year. Yeah, last year, 2020.
It's all a blur, man.
Yeah, right. It totally is. But we noticed that the unofficial Black Friday started even earlier than it did. You could tell people were just buying earlier, and not in terms of companies purposely putting out their deals or their offers. It's just we saw a big spike in even like the late September, early October. Mm-hmm. And there was still, another spike for some of the clients around the actual Black Friday time. But some of their biggest sales were well before that because people were still locked down. They were still bored. And sometimes the companies had to do some additional sales and deals that they weren't planning just to kind of boost business and try to meet some goals for the quarter and the year. Right. So from that user behavior aspect, it changed. And then from whether you're e-commerce or not, we actually got to loosen the reins a little bit. I'm looking at particularly some Google Ads accounts on the ad scheduling. Mm-hmm. People were stuck at home, and a lot of our non-e-commerce accounts sticking their Google Ads just to like the actual weekday business hours.
Sure.
Well, where people were stuck at home, they weren't going anywhere on the weekends. People were still buying on the weekends, and the cost per conversions were just as good, if not better, on the weekend. So we could go from just the business hours to 24 hours a day and all 7 days a week and let it run. And that's how some clients could grow or just kind of spread the budget around a little bit more and see some benefits from it. So from that aspect, we definitely discovered user behavior for sure change in many of our accounts.
Absolutely. JD, what are your thoughts on what you saw from user behavior with the clients that you've worked with in the past year?
Yeah, I'd echo Joe's. I think someone called it a blurs day, right? Where, everything is just blurred together. So I 100% agree with Joe. Monday through Sunday, they all feel the same, right? If you're not, working, or if you're working from home and you're just not really getting out,
right?
Then you've got discretionary funds, right? You've got more money, maybe because you're not doing certain activities. Maybe it's the family vacation that you didn't take. Maybe it's eating out a little bit less, or maybe eating out more, depending on your situation there. But I think another trend that isn't going to go away is it's going to be earlier. Just go look at Walmart. It is what, July? I bet they're prepping for Halloween starting next month, right? Absolutely. Everything is going to be earlier and earlier because everyone's going to want that share of wallet. I want your money. You only have so much of it. There are so many D2C brands now. Shopify has made that so easy. Mm-hmm. I got to get in early. And I think that'll be something that brands will try to do as they approach Black Friday is now going to be just like a whole month. All right. So it's going to be November. and I think it's going to creep into October. So I think those all make sense to me. I think all those trends, and I even look at my own behavior. Yeah. I mean, it's like I could go to the store or I could have it on Prime in maybe tomorrow, maybe 2 days, right?
It's crazy.
Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
I'll wait. It's like, I don't really want to go into a store or just the whole, like, for me.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking to Fernando Angulo over at SEMrush, and one of the biggest trending topics of 2020, they did a big honking infographic at the end of the year there, and one of the biggest trending fashion topics were sweatpants. I don't want to get out of my sweatpants to go down the street and perhaps get a deadly virus. So,
yeah,
I mean, comfort plus panic all of a sudden pushes us into a much different buying space here. So, we're going to be looking at Q4. We're just going to be celebrating Q4 as a buying holiday from now on. It's going to expand that much. So it's that's it. We're just going to market around that. But something about some of the stats I was reporting there, it's not just about buyer just transactions, but it was also about brand alignment. Over the period of time here, consumers thought more of the brand's messaging, not just the transactional nature. So that study showed that a healthy percentage actually decided to go to different brands or consider brand messaging and alignment more in this period of time. So it's not about just getting the lowest dollar product out there, but who you are, what you are. And there's a lot of brands that weren't ready for that type of nuanced approach, or I should say that there's challenges if you haven't done true marketing messaging to then all of a sudden try to create your brand overnight, right, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that even in my own buyer behavior of like what I'm buying. It matters maybe a little bit less of what brand that is. Maybe what's more important to me now is when can I get it? As we talked about earlier with the 1 day or the 2 day, right? So maybe, I've got a little toddler. He's 2.5, and it's like, oh, Huggies aren't in stock. Okay, I'll go buy Pampers, right? Oh, Pampers aren't in stock. Okay, cool. I'll go buy the Amazon Basics, right? Yeah. I don't really care. I just need diapers, right? And I think for me, it came down to more around need, not necessarily being truly loyal to that brand and having to wait because maybe they have logistics issues, or maybe the Suez Canal is still blocked and they're, they're still messed up from that. I was talking to a local retailer and he's like, yeah, I can't do boba tea. I'm backed up like 3 months. And I was like, dang, really? Like from the Suez Canal thing. So like, that's going to have ripple effects. Yep. And that's ultimately going to affect my buyer behavior when I just want the product without leaving the comfort of my basement office here.
Damn it. Get JD his boba tea. Come on.
I need my boba tea and I need my diapers.
Okay. That right there, I want to have as a soundbite. Okay.
Yeah. There it is.
So that's the converse of that is that, consumers damn the brand where they were being wooed and persuaded before that there was much more transactional. There are more offerings out there, and part of the product manufacturer and marketing mindset would be get that out there as best as you can in all the different channels. But there was also brand sensitivity over the course of the last year and a half. Yeah. There's certainly advertising that had to be pulled from certain types of causes, messages that we hadn't really noticed before or hadn't stubbed our toe on it nearly or clearly as much as a lot of advertisement around certain political issues, right?
I could jump on that one. I say definitely. And even as the channels have cracked down, it's affected, I could assume, a majority of advertisers. Hopefully, I'm not wishing on this, but I know other people have talked about it online where their account or their client's account has nothing to do with a controversial topic. However, since the channels have cracked down, they've done more machine learning to try to flag these actual bad accounts. It's affecting a lot of legit good accounts because the machine learning isn't perfect. And then you have to constantly go back to support or have them review requests to get your accounts or your ads back online. We've run into that, and we are still running into that consistently because they've had to really crack down on it. Because look how many accounts are on there, especially with how Google wants to grow with small businesses.
Sure.
There are just way too many accounts out there to have a manual support team to help you do this. So they need the machine learning to try to stop all the bad advertisers out there, which I get it. They have to do it, but at the same time, it's affecting everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that I think we're just going to have to constantly deal with.
Well, it was almost like we had two different pandemics happening at the same time: the physical one and the political or the social cause pandemic, and the heightened hyper reactivity to messaging. So steerage for companies in their digital marketing is even, you have to be more attuned to all the third rails that are out there. And we had certainly some assistance from Google and Facebook, but even that, are they approaching a level of heavy-handedness? We just had one campaign that our ad campaigns got smacked. We're trying to prevent domestic violence, right? And to try to get that message through the locks and channels on Facebook, it was ungodly. And all the hoops that we had to jump through. There is something about being too hypersensitive to messaging from these platforms that it doesn't make it worth its while to actually get the message out, right?
Yep, a little bit. I know one of the, JD kind of just said, one of the main reasons he buys is convenience and can I get it now? We've had one of the biggest reasons we've seen clients grow is that they build brands that people fall in love with. People will constantly come back to a brand that they can relate to, that they agree with. So with that mentality, we've had a couple clients who have publicly come out with some of these controversial topics and say, this is where we stand, because they know their audience backs them up. And when their audience backs them up and they know that they're vocal and they feel confident doing that and not be afraid to do it, it empowers the audience who wants to buy from that brand. So they can do that as a marketing tactic as well, to say, like, we are the brand that is in your corner that you can relate to, builds more trust in some cases that it can actually help your business.
Yeah, and you have other brands that jump on the lightning topic just for the controversy sake of it. So, I mean, back to the concept here is that brand alignment is not for the faint of heart anymore. Is you got to be able to be strong, or in whatever direction you take, you can't tread tepidly, because even that is a signal that consumers that can process incorrectly now. So there's a whole nother beast right there. So consumers have certainly changed here. Are you seeing this behavior staying, this type of transactional behavior or brand alignment behavior? I mean, we've got into the surreal in marketing, at least from my perspective. I don't see us, the Overton window is not coming back to plumb anymore. We're in this space and going to be continuing, and that's my assessment. You guys see us going even further in a new consumer model that we haven't experienced before?
Yeah, I think we're going to see like a more inclusive messaging with our marketing, and I think that's great. It's just whenever it misses the mark or you're trying to do something too much. An example, this last week, an Oklahoma City newspaper was trying to, get people vaccinated, and their marketing message was, "There's nothing more rock and roll than getting a needle." Okay.
You couldn't be more true.
You're like, so people were responding like, "Hey man, overdose is real."
God.
They just doubled down on it. Right. And they eventually, bosses had to come in, people got let go. Right. And they had to issue an apology. Right. But you see, they're trying to jump onto something. They were trying to do the right thing, but it's just when you don't own it. And I think that's part of what we're seeing too. I think we're going to see more inclusive, we're also going to see more ownership of our messaging and to say in holding, people accountable, not necessarily like canceling. I mean, the brand isn't canceled,
Sure.
right? But when you double down on the wrong thing, you might get canceled, right? I think it's really coming down to the accountability of the canceling of like, hey man, like that was really insensitive, right? And so I'm not saying that we're a bunch of snowflakes, but I do think there is a time, and I think we're starting to see it now, where we got to be more inclusive with our marketing. This is the messaging, this is the perception, this is who is in there, and really start to think through those things, because we want to ultimately reflect our own values, but also who our customers are. We want our customers to feel seen as well.
Quick question here is within Facebook and the Google Ads platform now, you have to verify, as an agency, you have to verify yourself as the advertising party on behalf of the clients that you're moving in front of. I had to do that with Facebook just recently, and Google's asking for the same thing. So are we now as advertisers because that message of who's actually advertising on behalf of this client is going to be visible, right, Joe?
Yeah, and I'm totally on board with that. If there's clearly an agency or practitioner that's constantly violating rules, then you're going to get flagged for it, and eventually you could potentially lose an option to management, probably based on your business manager or MCC account.
Sure.
I wish I had it in front of me. There was an article I saw this past week about some changes Google is making in terms of that. It's kind of like, even in terms of just ad accounts in general who are violating the rules, there's potentially going to be a 3-strike and you're out type rule coming in. And I'm okay with that. Now it depends if it's this machine learning stuff where they're looking at it that way and you're falsely getting flagged. I can also see this being absolutely awful.
It's terrifying.
So it's one of those things where I understand. And I know last time I was on, we talked about big issues that they had with YouTube stuff. It's these channels are so big that it's hard for them to control everything properly. Right. They want to do what's right from a privacy standpoint to make sure that it's good advertising. They do actively block ads and accounts consistently of people trying to mess, with the system and try to game the system. Which, we have to give them some credit that they are trying. Sure. It's just, is it going to have the effects that we want for all the good advertisers that are out there?
Yeah. But with our advertising agency up front and center, in front and right next to the brands that we're representing, usually, I mean, it should be the case that you don't want to represent any brand that you're not proud of and brand and mission aligned in that respect. But at the same time, you're now indelibly tied to these brands, and if they make a particular mistake out there, guess who's also right in the foxhole with them? That's the agency that's also representing them. And if the agency is the culprit of that misstep or poor rock and roll needle combination, right? Yeah. And maybe you should know who the agency was.
To be fair, the agency also said it was good. They were responding in the Instagram comments that they were like, "No, this is really good." And you're like, geez. "No, it's not."
Oh man. Oh,
yeah, sorry.
No, that's and I think the branding issues, will definitely come into mix. And the audience right now is smart. And they're passionate, and they are the most vocal they have ever been. I think of Pride Month. So many companies would change their logos to have rainbow in them. They say we support Pride, and then so many of those companies, they find out that they back politicians or legislations or whatever that are completely against what Pride Month is about, and they all got called out. And so it's one of those things where people are going to know if you're fake, and if you're fake, that's you can get a good amount of people not give a crap about your brand ever again.
Oh, they'll burn you to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and that is a cautionary tale, because we've all seen reputation management go astray or go awry, and people just burn people down on reviews, and there is a culpability to the consumers that they have a role in this as well. You just can't scream fire against brands that aren't deserving of such ridicule. And I don't want to get into a political soapbox, but I mean, we are in this ecosystem together, and the companies are adjusting and relating to the new customer behavior, both from a transactional product standpoint as well as just the digital standpoint we were in, because we were all closed down. I mean, it's a pressure cooker of sorts that can truly flare up regularly, and any digital marketing, any company that's out there digitally should also have a policy of crisis management as well, because they can step in it inadvertently, and I mean, all hell can rain down on them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's scary when you kind of think about this, because you're not going to please everyone. Right. Every tweet, every ad, whatever it is, could be read through a certain lens and could offend someone, right?
Yep.
But I think as long as you can point back and say, hey, this represents us, this reflects us, and it also reflects, our customers, and be able to point to that and say, okay, like this is the stand we're going to take. I think about Nike backing Kaepernick.
Yeah.
I mean, they made like $5 billion off doing that, right? I mean, that wasn't, yes, it was
a net win.
It was
right.
making a statement,
right?
But it was also very much so impacting their bottom line.
Sure.
In saying who we want buying our shoes. And they were okay with doing that. And guess what? I think most of us have probably forgot that even happened, right? Mm-hmm. So they also know that a lot of this stuff is, it's going to be in the news cycle, 24, sure. 48 hours, maybe a week, and then it's going to blow over, right? Every year, Starbucks gets in trouble for their Christmas themed coffee mugs, right? Like it's
yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
now people just hate Starbucks because they're out of all their favorite drinks because of shipping it.
Yeah. What the hell? That's what it gets down to right there. It's about product.
Suez.
Give me my boba
product.
tea. Come on.
It's product.
It is product. All right. So my last leg of this journey, it really is talking about product marketing and demand generation. And it consumes the outputs of product marketing and injects them into marketing machinery that delivers content to prospects at scale consistently. That's what you do on a regular basis, JD. So I guess and who you talk to on your podcast. Can you give us a concept of how product marketing can actually work the demand gen team and keep it rolling regularly? Because this is what we're talking about, is when it gets down to it's not brand alignment. I mean, all those cursory causes, as hot flash as they are, people need their stuff, and there has to be a continual funnel creation there. So kind of walk me through the product marketing world for us real quick, and what we should be looking at in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I came up through demand gen side of things, made the transition over into product marketing, and now I'm kind of wearing both hats, right? I think one of our friends, she calls this a pie-shaped marketer, like the Greek alphabet pi.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and I think within that, thinking through your product marketing is really responsible for the product. So think B2B, think SaaS, really, there's a product and they own the marketing strategy for that product. Mm-hmm. And part of that is working with the demand gen team. The demand gen team, you could call them growth marketers, performance marketers, whatever that may be, but they should be helping you fill the funnel. And so that's helping them with the right messaging. It's helping them with the right content, what content they should create. It's helping them maybe put on a webinar. It's helping them understand who would be a good audience fit for this product, so they know who to go target.
Right.
It's helping them with writing their ads, working with the design team to come up with what does that image look like. When I was on the demand gen side, the product marketing didn't really exist, and we were just winging it. We were having to figure this stuff out. Well, now that you have, I'm hoping if you're out there listening, you have a product marketing team that can help you, and they should be helping you to lead this strategy, because ultimately, they're the ones that are actually on the line for the success of this product. Mm-hmm. Demand gen obviously can help out with, running the in-channel stuff, or, putting on, maybe writing some emails or getting the emails out to customers, but work with the product marketing team on that go-to-market strategy, and then ultimately lean back on them and really push on them to make sure that they're giving you the right messaging, the right audiences.
And if you don't have that mature product management team, product marketing team, it can fall like a thud because it's not meeting the consumers where they are, where their needs are. And that's why I wanted to tee up this concept with the former concept is consumers have changed. Their product needs have changed. Their consumption has changed. Their alignment has changed. Unless product marketing is recognizing those other dimensions, it's going to be one, in its own echo chamber, but two, it won't meet those new dimensions where it could be very well undiscovered country of incredible lead generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, working at Google, we called it's know the magic, know the user, connect the two.
Cool.
And that's what product marketing was responsible for. Was I know the product better than anyone. Well, maybe outside of product management, but I know it really well. But I'm also responsible for knowing this audience really well. Now it's my job to go help the marketing team, the sales team, and the customer success team be successful. So demand gen, that could look like generating leads. Sales team is closing those leads. They need pitch decks. They need one-pagers. They need battle cards. Success team, they need FAQs.
Yep.
They need to figure out how to answer these questions, or how do I pitch this beta to a perspective like, a really good client, right? Or having you help and answer those questions back and forth. So yeah, that's where they kind of sit right there in the middle of those three teams.
Joe, thoughts in the product marketing, digital marketing side of things, because there's a whole nother ROAS side, a whole transactional e-com side. That is the transactional side of things, but there is a heck of a lot of messaging that goes along that you have to bump the other products out of the way to make room for yourself, right?
Yeah. Kind of relate to what JD already said a little bit, but if anyone reaches out to Michelle or I and asks for help or anything, we typically like to tell them is we're really good understanding the ins and outs of these paid media channels. You know your product better than anyone else. So to work with a product marketer, it has to be a really in-depth relationship, because kind of like what you said, Aaron, like, yes, we can go in and look at ROAS, we can look at insights, but for the most part, we're looking at that from a very narrow lens of just via the paid media channel. I need to know what you're doing from content marketing. Are you doing email marketing? What is the branding for those things? Because if I'm writing ad copy without your permission, if I'm making ads in Canva or whatever without your permission, does it align with what your entire business is doing? So it could be a lot more work than what you think to have your ad campaigns be as successful as you want them to be. And like, what JD said too, it's understanding the audience. If the product marketer, the product manager has the best perspective on who that target audience is, I need to interview you and grill you and say, okay, if I found these targeting options on these paid social channels, are these it? Here are some areas we can expand. Are these the right ones to expand to? Or help me out and let me pick the right ones, instead of me being like, yeah, it's close enough. It's got the same product name in it. Yeah, I'll just toss it in. It could not be the exact fit. So it's that working relationship and understanding the entire landscape instead of just looking at, sorry, I bumped my mic. Instead of just looking at what the ad platforms are doing, you have to have an idea of the entire landscape.
Absolutely. You cannot be operating in a silo. However efficiently you are, or if you have an augmented advertising team doing this, got to plug them in, and you have to understand all the nuances of customer service, right? As well as life cycle of a product, because it's just not about that transaction. It's about that customer journey now. And since the customer, it's the buyer's world right now, buyer's mindset, and they can light on fire if they see that you're tone deaf in your marketing as well. And so there's a whole nother, again, just doubling back on what we were talking about, is if you're moving ads into a space where you're not sensitive to the brand or anything that is, what I will say, misaligned, you could actually be shooting yourself in the foot with the advertising, unknowing of the other elements of the firm, right?
100%. I've gotten to a point now where I want as many eyes and a diverse set of eyes on anything that I write from the get-go. And I just know that, one, it's going to help me, like it'll make me a better writer. It's going to make the ad better, but it's also, I need to know how does this resonate with women? How does this resonate with someone in California or someone in New York, right? I mean, you get that advantage now working remote, but it's like, I need different perspectives and different eyes. And I think even different teams is super helpful whenever you're trying to write that ad copy, like with, Joe, if you're a demand gen side and you're an agency, like ask, do you have product marketing team? Can we talk with them? Right. And because I can guarantee they're going to have a whole nother layer and probably a deeper layer of insights that you can, take advantage of.
Very good. Very good. Well, I mean, if you operate under the precept that you're bound to piss somebody off initially, right?
Yeah.
Just assume that, then you can get the oversight to be able to protect yourself. All right.
Also true.
Well, we certainly appreciate your insights, gentlemen, and there's lots more things that we can talk about here. But I did want to stop on one thing in particular. You're both pushing media regularly outside of your consultancy. You're in there in the fray, communicating and educating. And I wanted to hear what lessons you learned, just briefly, on JD. You've got a successful podcast out there. You're talking to product marketing managers on a regular basis. Joe, you've got a killer YouTube channel, and you're breaking apart tactics. And on top of that, you're kind of putting yourself out there from almost like an evaluation standpoint. If somebody disagrees with what you're doing on a tactic, it's right there in bold sight. So, I mean, that takes some gumption, it takes some boldness to be able to tell the audience this is how you need to do this. What have been lessons learned from your media forays? JD first, go ahead.
I think for me, it's knowing that it's never done. I think I've always had, looking back at myself 5 years from now, like it was more black and white. And I think I operate in a little bit more gray now. Or maybe I take more of a growth mindset. You could call it that way, of like, we're just going to test. Like, let's just see what happens. Here's the message today. Here's the ad today. Here's the web page. Here's the web copy, whatever that may be. And let's learn from it. And like, it just knowing that it's going to be an iteration, that it's not going to just stay the way it is. It will continually get better. I think that was a pretty good learning for me. And then outside of that, I would just say, stay curious, keep that learning mindset. For this role, I had to learn Webflow. I was so used to WordPress. When building websites, I had to go learn a whole new platform, and it was trial by fire. And I'm telling you, for 2 days, I was just like, I was at my wit's end. I was watching so many YouTube videos, but I think just embracing that and, being okay with a little bit of that chaos. And then the last thing I would say I've learned is being okay with just letting some fires burn. You can only put out so many fires. You can only attend to so many fires, and you have to be okay with this going, okay, I'm going to do that fire drill, that fire, and I'm going to let that one burn and let that one burn and let that one burn. And I think those have been kind of my big kind of between the podcast and then even in, the last couple of months and in years, those are my big learnings and takeaways.
Learn to appreciate the trash fire over there, right?
That's right.
Get a couple
you just gotta
s'mores.
let it burn. I can't get to that right now. I got to deal with this trash fire.
Yep. All right. Well, good sentiment there, Joe. What have you learned from the YouTube production? Yeah, you guys doing how many shows a week now?
Yeah, we have 2 videos.
2 videos a
week, and we're talking about even a little mini podcast thing on our own, plus potentially more courses and stuff. So
do it, man. Do it.
What do we get ourselves into? but for me, it just came down to fun. I still work on clients. I still love working on accounts. That's why I got into this industry after, a job that I hated. But my roots came in broadcasting.
Yeah, they did.
My major was broadcasting at college. So for me, it came down to, doing what I want to do, but shifting my role in a little bit that I can do more of the content stuff and talking like this. This is great during my hours and not having to stress myself over client emails, 24 hours a day. And at nighttime, it's kind of like that mental health thing as well. So that I think that was just a big part of it, of like, even though it's still work related, my kids and my wife still think I'm doing work, but like, no, editing video, this is fun for me. Like, I love doing this, working on the channel. This is a hobby that pays me ad money. So, but I think that's just a big factor of what I learned from the channel. There's people who thumbs down our videos. There's people who leave comments and everything. It's easy for me to brush off a bit because I'm still doing something I like to do. But then to have something practical there too. It's I've learned, and I still say it just the way I talk, even though I may not mean it. I always say I try not to say you always need to do this within your accounts, because we've worked on accounts that are very similar within the same industries, but those accounts perform totally different. So I try not to use best practice and say this is the way it should be done, because odds are it's definitely not going to work in one account, and kind of going back to what JD says, it comes down to testing. So, our goal with it is not to tell you this is how you should do it. Our goal with what we're trying to do with content is say, here are the options and the opportunities you have to give you ideas of what you may want to test within your account. And that's kind of where we try to have our tone, even though we might not say it that way all the time.
Killer. No, you guys are doing a great job. My takeaway is that you just referenced Edge of the Web as a therapy session for Joe Martinez.
It is. It is. See?
I use it as that because my kids don't want to hear me talk SEO at all.
Yep. Mine are upstairs, and I was like, you're not going to want to come down and hear this anyway. So
eyes roll back in their head. They start frothing at the mouth. It's a good thing.
Yep.
Well, guys, keep up the good fight and keep on pushing that content out. This is what thought leadership really is that you got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to be able to also risk yourself out there as well, and pass on some of the fires that you just can't take on, and try to do the best work you can, and connect with people as much as you can, be able to help guide, and share what you've learned along the way. I mean, that's I guess the cornerstone that we all share here. So kudos to you guys, and I do appreciate you guys coming on. Any final thoughts for the digital marketing audience out here? We gave the preppers some advice. We got moving consumers. Any thoughts that you want to share to kind of summarize your take here today?
Let's get vaccinated so that way we can get out there and have some fun this fall. I don't need a fourth wave. So that fourth wave is going to impact me buying more stuff off Amazon and not caring about brands. So I want to go back to really thinking through my next Adidas purchase rather than my next just Crocs purchase. You know what I mean?
So for everybody out there, get vaccinated, because JD needs his boba tea and he doesn't want to buy Crocs online.
That's right. That is right.
But in his thing though, I mean, I'm wearing Adidas right now. So we talked about sweatpants before. I'm wearing my Adidas Cobra pants too. So you meant those, right? You want to get more Adidas sweatpants.
That's right. There you go.
It comes full circle. Exactly. Joe, any final thoughts for our audience?
Very cliche, but I think the only constant in our industry is that it's not constant. So I think you need to, the one thing that has never been true in my industry is keeping the mentality of this is the way it's always done is going to always work. And now you have to be willing to learn, adjust, move, and adapt, whether you're managing the account or your work in-house and you're the one hiring an agency. You have to understand that things are going to change. Look at the Facebook privacy thing. We had to change immediately. COVID, we had to change things immediately. And if you're going to push back on it, don't be surprised if you fail.
Very good. Very good. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you both for your time today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. It's a great relationship you guys have, and it's odd to get those marketers together that they don't go after each other like a cage match. So kudos to you guys. And we certainly appreciate your time, and we welcome you back down the road as well. And Joe, hit us up in November. We'll have you right here in the seat, okay?
I'll be there.
Sweet. All right. Well, that's it for this recording. Thanks so much for the time today. And be sure to let us know how we did on this interview as well. Go over to iTunes and give us a review if you would be so kind. Thanks to our sponsor, Site Strategics. Be sure to check out all the must-see videos and much more over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. From all of us over here at Edge and Site Strategics, be safe, be well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.